Make your marks.
You're listening to the Pullbuoy podcast.
Welcome back to the Pullbuoy podcast. Steve here, and this episode is a chat I have really been looking forward to. We'll get to that in just a second, but before we do, if you're listening on Spotify, make sure to hit the follow button, and if you're on YouTube, subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. Oh, and do leave us a review too, we'd really appreciate it. But enough of that, let's get into it. All right, my guest today on the Pullbuoy podcast is someone who followers of British swimming will know very well, and who will, like me, I'm sure, have been sad to see depart the international swimming scene. Molly Renshaw, welcome to the Pullbuoy podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Well, as I said, you recently hung up your goggles and stepped away from racing. If we can start there and sort of start at the end, if you like. Reading your retirement statement you put out on Instagram and wherever, it didn't sound like it was an easy decision to make. What was it that finally kind of pushed you that way?
It wasn't an easy decision at all, and I think I took a long time to think about it, and I always had this idea in the back of my head that after the Tokyo Olympics, if things went well, then that would be like my time to retire. You know, I wanted to leave the sport before it was me. I got pushed out of the sport by injury or like lack of funding or anything like that. So yeah, it was something that it was a really hard decision. It's a massive thing to always leave behind because it was a huge part of my life for so long. But I took the time, and so I knew by the time I actually made the decision, I knew it was probably the right thing to do. And I took a bit of time out over the summer to kind of find what I wanted to do next, kind of get my feet on the ground, where I wanted to live, just things like that. So it was really tough, but I think ultimately I just knew that I'd had a long career in the sport. I was really grateful for the things I'd got to do through swimming and the places I'd been, the people I'd met, and everything I'd achieved was kind of everything ticked off my list, I guess, other than an Olympic medal. But I just didn't know if I could see myself carrying on another 3 years for another Olympic cycle to kind of go to Paris. So yeah, it was really tough, but I just thought, I'm 26 and I kind of just wanted to live my life a little bit normally. You know, I've been tied down by swimming for so long, made so many sacrifices. I just got to the point where I was just ready to live a really normal life and just see what else was out there for me other than swimming.
You talked about having thought about ending after Tokyo, and lots of people do finish their careers off the back of the Olympics, whatever happens. But, you know, was the fact that there was home Commonwealth Games 9 months later a factor in maybe just delaying that decision while you thought about it?
Yeah, definitely. I think ending at home games is probably a lot of people's dreams. So to have that opportunity, it seemed like something I couldn't just miss out on. And having kind of already the qualification for it, I knew that year would have been fairly simple to get through, just to get to the home games. So yeah, it was definitely a factor, but also I think just because I didn't perform as well as I would have liked at Tokyo, part of me wanted to kind of redeem myself and see what else I had left in the tank. Because I think at the Olympics, it's probably the slowest I swam that season. So I was massively disappointed with how I swam there, and just felt like I should have got so much more out of that week than I did. So I think a big reason for carrying on was deciding whether I wanted to kind of redeem myself and give it one last go. But yeah, ultimately I just got to a place with the sport where I wasn't enjoying it. Mentally and physically, it was really challenging on me. I was getting anxious going to the pool, and I've never had that feeling with swimming. Like, it's always been a real escape for me. So I kind of knew from that point that things weren't quite right, and I wasn't willing to kind of push myself to injury or illness for the sake of a sport. I think I've dedicated more than enough time and enough made enough sacrifices for the sport. So yeah, I think it was a sensible decision. It was obviously tough because I was still swimming best times and still performing at top level, but I think I just knew I wanted to make that decision before it was kind of taken out of my hands.
You mentioned the disappointment in Tokyo. It was a short cycle from Tokyo to Paris because of all the pandemic business and everything. But the opportunity to perhaps put that right wasn't enough for you to keep that the passion going or the enthusiasm going, having ever did?
No, I think I tried really hard to get back into it after Tokyo, and not through any fault of like my team or my coaches or anything. Everyone was so amazing, so supporting, so accommodating to how I was kind of feeling at the time. But I think I kind of just lost something within myself that I knew was probably going to be really hard to get back. I've been in similar positions where I've had so many knockbacks and tried to come back. So even from the age of like 14, not making the Olympics in 2012, it's just been like setback after setback. And I've just think, you know what, I've done this for long enough. I'm just ready to kind of excel and challenge myself in a new area of my life now. And just, yeah, like I said, just be a bit normal. So yeah, it was a really tough decision, but I don't regret it at all now. So I'm really glad that I did that.
And as things played out, your last day as a swimmer, inverted commas, was the last day of the Commonwealth Games. Picked up a medal in the medley relay. That's got to have been a good way to bow out in front of a home crowd. We've heard from lots of people that the atmosphere in the Sandwell pool was amazing. So, a pretty good way to finish, I would.
Yeah, it was amazing. I don't think I could have asked for a better finish. Like the week wasn't great at all. I didn't swim as well as I would have liked. I finished fourth twice as well in the 100 and the 200. So missed out so close on kind of what could have been my final medals of my career. And I think sometimes I go to these competitions, and especially at Worlds last year, I got to Budapest and I was kind of, at the start of the week, I'm like, why am I thinking about leaving this? Like, I'm traveling the world with like some of my best friends. Like, I'm in a job where everyone wants what's best for me. Everyone wants me to be the best version of myself. I'm like, this isn't real life. Like, you don't get this in the outside world. So I'd be kind of questioning why I want to leave this. But then by the end of the week, when things kind of hadn't gone the way I wanted, I'd be like, God, get me out of this sport. Like, it was just such a roller coaster of emotions throughout the year. And I was the same at commies. Like, I was really like grateful to be there. Like, the England team were amazing. Like, England teams always just seem like a little bit more fun and relaxed. And so, yeah, I'm really grateful that I got to finish my journey there. But it was a frustrating week, but nice to kind of end it on a high with family and friends there. And like you said, like, the atmosphere was amazing. We don't really get that in swimming too often. So to be able to have that so close to home was amazing.
I mean, you'd obviously been weighing this up for a little while before you finally, made that decision. Had there been, had you been thinking about where you were going to go next for a period of time? Did you get much support from elsewhere about that transition? I mean, I've spoken to a lot of people about retirement and whatever and I'll put a link in the show notes, people who want to listen to that. But it can be a really difficult period in people's lives. So did you get lots of support for going through that, or did you have to do it the hard way by yourself?
No, I did have a lot of support, especially through British Swimming. We had a lifestyle advisor, so Josh Rudd at the time. I kind of spoke to him maybe like a year before I even thought about retiring, and I was like, look, I don't know when I'm going to retire, but I know that I kind of need to start taking the steps of something in place that when I do, because I do know so many people that have retired and kind of struggled with that transition, and it's been really difficult for them. So I was kind of proactive in that, but I also knew I kind of wanted to have like a decent break after swimming and not just rush straight into something. So I had lots of ideas in my head. Like, at one point I was going to go traveling. At one point I was like, I'm moving to Australia. Then I was like, I've always wanted to live in London. So I did a bit of traveling over the summer. Was still kind of like looking out for things to do, but obviously like applying for jobs and stuff was a little too early, because I knew I wanted like until the end of the year to kind of get settled in where I wanted to be and have time to make a decision. So yeah, I took time off over summer, did a lot of traveling, saw a lot of family, friends, spoke to like everyone about the decision just to try and get as many different opinions as I can. But yeah, everyone was so supportive. British women were great. We kind of received support as well after I'd announced my retirement till the end of the year. So yeah, I just took a bit of time away from everything really. I moved to London in October and was kind of just like, I was applying for jobs and things, like seeing what else was out there, just networking, getting to know people. And yeah, eventually just fell into a job that I really enjoy. And I think I've been quite lucky with my transition. I'm working in a job that I love with people that are really nice and have a great kind of team environment, which it's been a really easy transition for me, which I do think I'm lucky in that sense. So yeah, no, it's been great, and everyone's been really supportive, from British Women to my family to my friends and everyone.
Can I ask what you're doing?
So I'm working for a
Oh.
digital marketing agency. So it's not particularly what I saw myself doing, but it's something completely different, and it's been nice to kind of learn something outside of the swimming world, I guess.
Yeah, something that doesn't need you to get up early in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, my commutes in aren't too early, but yeah, no, it's nice. The work from home days are nice.
Yeah, we're all enjoying those. We're all enjoying those, I can tell you. All right, well, let's look back at some of your, the high points of your career. And I don't propose to go through everything, because otherwise this podcast will be about 2 hours long. But let's pick up on some highlights. We go right back to the beginning, when you burst onto the scene, internationally, at least in 2011, when you. I think people who followed the sport would have seen you, in junior teams or whatever. But you carved, I think, 3 seconds off your PB in a day at trials in 2011 to make the World Championship team and go to Shanghai. As a young teenager, what was that like?
Yeah, they were the good old days of being an age group somewhere where you just drop seconds at a time that aren't really realistic anymore. But yeah, no, it was crazy. Like I went from being this swimmer who made national finals. I think I'd been to a few British championships, but I kind of just dropped so much time unexpectedly. Like I went there to qualify for European juniors. Like that was my ultimate goal. And then obviously to drop that amount of time and make the senior team, I was a bit like, whoa, like this is all quite serious now. But I loved it. Like I remember that summer, I think I was away for about 6 or 7 weeks, because I went away to Belgrade for the European Juniors, and then literally flew home, stayed in Heathrow for the night, and then went to Shanghai for the World Championships. So it was pretty crazy. I think I was 15 at the time. So looking back, like I think it definitely helped my career, like the longevity of my career, because I think it made me mature and kind of grow up really quickly and understand what it takes to be at the top level of the sport. Being on teams with people like Liam Tancock, Rebecca Adlington, Joe Jackson, people like that. It was like I was on a team with like my idols, and it was just such like an eye-opening experience. And yeah, I think it definitely shaped the athlete that I eventually became in my senior career.
That was the first team where we saw Siobhan Marie O'Connor as well, who was a similar age to you, I think. So did that help that she was making her debut at the same time and was similar age?
Yeah, massively. I think us two kind of went through the journey together, and we were quite lucky that we had quite a long career in the sport. And from that year, pretty much every year we were on teams together. We'd been roomies ever since that day, and like it's just like such a great friendship was made there that it just made the whole process a lot less daunting. And yeah, we were lucky, like I said, that we kind of grew through the sport together, and she obviously went on to achieve amazing things, which is so nice to see. And now she actually lives like 10 minutes up the road, which is really nice. So we're back together again.
Excellent. I mean, to that, you've already mentioned the kind of drama in 2012 with the Olympics there. But having gone to Shanghai and had the taste of it, did that kind of build the pressure on you, thinking, I've got a home games a year away, I perhaps wasn't expecting to be on the international team, and now this is a real possibility I could swim in
Yeah,
London?
definitely. I think obviously as a teenager swimming, my ultimate dream was to make the Olympics one day, but I probably never imagined that it would have been London 2012. I think my eyes were always set on the 2016 Olympics. But yeah, when I kind of made that drop and I qualified for the World Championships, and I knew that the Olympic qualifying time wasn't far off of that, it definitely became a lot more realistic and quite exciting. And I think it kind of like drove something within me to kind of get back in and have this urge to compete at a home games. And I probably didn't at the time understand how important like a home games was and how much of a difference that would make, like competing there. But yeah, I think it definitely all of a sudden became so much more realistic overnight, and it almost took something from me that was like a hobby that I enjoyed, just going and seeing my friends, and we trained hard, but it wasn't anything I ever took that seriously. To then the point where I'm getting funding, I'm getting support from British Swimming, whether that's physio, nutritionists, like it all just became quite serious overnight, really. But I loved it. Like I think that the start of my journey kind of really started there, and I saw kind of what we could achieve through swimming and how special it could be. So yeah, I think it was a massive shock, but yeah, it definitely drove something within me to kind of push myself to make that Olympic team.
Obviously, people will remember that you found perhaps the only loophole in the selection policy and didn't get the opportunity to swim in London. But did that kind of knock you back at all, or did it spur you on to kind of make sure you didn't have that problem 4 years hence?
I think initially afterwards I took a massive knock. As a 15, 16-year-old, it's I was almost dangled this carrot in front of me, and then it was taken away in June, and then there was the whole appeal process that we decided to go through. And I think as a 15-year-old, it's a pretty traumatic experience to have to go through, when especially it was just like a hobby I enjoyed, and I loved because my friends were there and it was just good fun. So I think I thought, God, like, this is a lot for a teenager to take on, and I wouldn't wish it upon anybody. It was a horrible period of my life, and I think for a year after that I did struggle. I stayed at Renshaw Excel with Andy Manley, and I just kind of hit a plateau. Like, I went to European Juniors, and I think I won the 200 breaststroke, and I went to World Juniors. I think I picked up a medal there, but like I just didn't have that like desire or the passion to be there, and I wasn't swimming best times. I was kind of swimming a couple of seconds off. So I think I sat down with Andy, and he was so kind of reasonable about it. And like, looking back, like, I'm so grateful that he was so open-minded about things. He was like, I think you're ready for a change. And so this is when I started kind of training a couple of days a week with Loughborough under Kev Renshaw. And like, once I made the move there, I think going from an age group program where I was the oldest swimmer, I was kind of in a bit of a rut, to then being one of the youngest in a national centre among all these amazing swimmers like Roberto Pavoni, Dan Fogg, Liam Tancock, everyone. That was like kind of the change I needed. So yeah, I'm really grateful that Andy kind of pushed me to do that and was almost like willing to let me go, because I think if I hadn't, I could have easily ended my swimming career there. But that move definitely kind of reignited something within me, and I was like, this is it. This is what senior swimming's about. This is what I need to do to get back to that level. So yeah, I moved there at the end of 2013, and literally every time I swam I was PBing, and I kind of like fell back in love with the sport again. So yeah, I think if it wasn't for that move, I probably would have quit swimming a lot earlier, which is quite crazy looking back at like where I've been now. So yeah, I definitely did struggle, but I think having that change of environment and change of scenery just like reignited something in me.
You mentioned plateauing there, and that was something I wanted to ask you about, because in your career you have had some periods where you haven't done best times, several years in some places, which can obviously be really, really difficult. But how did you manage that? And what advice do you have for other people who are facing those periods where you're not swimming best times? You're swimming well, but not swimming your lifetime bests.
I think it just gets so frustrating, because that day in, day out, you're giving it your best. You're hitting PBs in the gym. You're hitting all your nutrition goals. You're at your perfect race weight. And sometimes it just takes something to be off on the day where Dave used to say, like, if all your stars aren't aligned on the day, you're not going to get the perfect race, no matter kind of if you've done everything you can. So it is really frustrating, and I think especially with swimming, because how many hours we put in, and the gym and the nutrition, it is a whole lifestyle. It's not just a couple of hours a day. It's everything changes to adapt to that. So yeah, I think my main message would just be keep up the consistency. It's really tough, but if you're going to have longevity in the sport, you've kind of got to stick at it and kind of find them 1% where you can improve. Because I definitely thought after Rio, I'd kind of hit my maximum, and I was never going to PB again. I was like, I'm getting too old for this. Why would I start PBing at 25? And I remember having that conversation with Dave, and he was like, what are you on about? He was like, you've got so much you can still work on. And so like, once we broke it down, I was like, okay, this is a focus. And I just really like drew into them every single day. Then come 2021, I actually ended up dropping about 3 seconds off my best time. So it just proves that I think a lot of the time it's a mental challenge in your head, and you think that I definitely thought I was past it, and I was like, God, I'm just clinging on with a fingernail here. So I think you can surprise yourself. It's just about being consistent and putting the hard work in.
But for you personally, I mean, as you say, you set personal best in everything, I think, in 21, pretty much. was it just about finding, well, let's work on, I don't know, breakouts or streamlining or timing front end of the stroke or whatever it might have been? Was it just, right, we'll focus on that bit and that will give us a little bit, and just putting all those things together?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of things. I think, like you said, finding the 1% within things. So my stroke's always been quite long and technical, and usually kind of like the harder I try, the slower I go. So it was kind of figuring out how to make the most out of my 100, because I'd always struggled with kind of that speed. So it's kind of figuring out that maybe if I don't try as hard, I will go faster, and just kind of experimenting with my stroke, making it a lot more streamlined. And like the big focus of my stroke was kind of get every single thing out of each stroke. So I think I used to do between 56 to 60 strokes in my 200 breaststroke. And Dave's message was always like, make every stroke as good as it can be. So hitting that streamline, not creating too much drag and things like that. But also I just think after lockdown and kind of having the sport taken away from us, when everyone came back to training in Loughborough, like, it was just a completely different environment. Like, everyone was just so ready to get going again. We were so bored of like home workouts in the garage, and it was horrific. So I think having that kind of taken away from us just made us so grateful for the sport. So when we came back as a team, like, we were all just so driven to get going again, and we just kept building momentum. And I think that season, like, Loughborough just absolutely smashed it. Every time we raised people with some of the best times, and it was just a great program to be part of, because I think we were all doing so well and we were all training so well, and it's like once you get to that high and you just keep riding that high, it just makes it so much easier. So I think definitely a combination of things, whether that's the team around us or kind of having it taken away, or finding the little things within technical points or the stroke or nutrition and things like that. Just everything kind of added up together, and that's how I kind of got the final big drop.
Well, it obviously worked for you, so that's really great. But if we jump back a bit to 2016, you did get your Olympic call up in 2016, and I think I saw you at the Europeans. You weren't, even though you got the nod by that point, but I think you'd said you had a bit of a nervous wait, and you wouldn't believe it was real. But that was a big relief, I guess, to get that that call.
Yeah, definitely. I think it seems to be like every Olympic year I just kind of dreaded, because I feel like, especially in breaststroke, every year there seemed to be like a pop out swimmer who just dropped loads of time. And I know I was probably that swimmer back in 2011, but I was just kind of always on my toes with things. And that year Chloe dropped a lot of time and beat me at trials, so I was like, I'm in a similar position to 2012, where I'm finishing second and still within the qualifying time. I still swam a PB, but I just walked away from that week like so deflated and exhausted by the sport. So I was like, I just want to be at a point where I was just guaranteed on the team. I just wanted to hit that qualifying time and win, and I just felt like it's constant, like, knock back after knock back. So even though I swam best times, I was just like but yeah, obviously I then got the caller, which I was over the moon about, and went to Europeans, and I swam faster at Europeans again. So yeah, I think having that pressure just taken off me just allowed me to kind of just enjoy the sport again and just start swimming fast and get ready for Rio.
And I think you went to Rio and swam another best time. So, that must have been very rewarding. You may not have got the result on the placings that you wanted, but you came away from those Olympics with the best time, and a place in the final and everything. So, how did you rate that?
Yeah, it was. I still look back, and that's definitely my favourite probably swimming experience that I've been a part of. Like, Rio was just really special to me. I was lucky to kind of have my family there, and my friends came to watch. So obviously that was so different to Tokyo. But yeah, it was just an amazing experience, and I swam really well in the heats, got a really good lane for the semi-finals. In the semi-finals, I then broke the British record, and I think I was going into the final ranked second or third. And I just thought by that point, like, I was like, I just need to enjoy this experience. I was like, why am I putting so much pressure on myself? Like, my goal at the start of the year was just to be in Olympic Games, and now I'm here in an Olympic final. I just need to do what I've just done the day before and just see what outcome that gives me. I was like, if I can do my best, I can't control what other people are doing. So that was my aim. I was like, I used to be quite nervous and quite shy around racing, and that Olympic final was the first time I kind of walked out with like my shoulders back, my chin up, and I like waved to the crowd. And I actually spotted my parents in the crowd, and that's probably like one of like my top 3 special memories in my life. Like seeing them just before I raced in the Olympic final was just really special to be able to share that with them. And I did end up going a little bit slower in the final, and I finished 5th, which is really annoying now. But yeah, looking back, like I just learned so much that week, and it was just like, even though it's been on teams for like 5 years before that, I think your first Olympics is just such an eye-opening experience, and I was just so grateful to be on such an amazing team that was so successful. I saw my best friend Siobhan win Olympic medals, so it was an emotional roller coaster, like every single meet is, I guess. But yeah, it's still really treasured to me, that week is.
And you went not quite straight from there, but you went from there to the World Short Course Championships in Canada later that year, and won the world title. So, you know, how did that compare?
Yeah, this is the funny thing about sport. Like, I feel like it's like setback, high, like for me, it's never just been like at a constant level. But I think that's maybe what's been the longevity, because I've either been frustrated and I want to be better, or I'm doing well and I'm really enjoying it. But yeah, I went to Canada, and I was quite shocked at how well I swam, if I'm completely honest. I took quite a big break after Rio. I got quite ill. I lost a lot of weight. And so I kind of was like, it was a slow process getting back into training, like gradually building up. So I kind of just went there to just fall back in love with the sport and enjoy racing again, go somewhere new. I'd never been to Canada. So Dave was just like, just go there, see what happens. Yeah, I ended up swimming really, really well and obviously winning. And I think that was a nice little confidence boost to kind of get me going again into the next season.
Well, you obviously came off that, and we've touched on Tokyo a little bit already, which, you know, jumping forward another 5 years as it was, you know, that was a long cycle in. You were swimming so well in the beginning of that year, and you've already said that Tokyo perhaps didn't go completely to plan. Have you kind of come to terms with that now, or is it still some frustration?
There is still some frustration there. I don't know why, because I can't do anything about it now. But yeah, I think I was just so frustrated with the fact that I'd swam so well all year. I was loving swimming, like so grateful to be part of like such a successful team going into it. We knew like how well we could do and how many medals we could walk away with, and I was really hoping to be one of them people to kind of add to that medal tally. And I knew it wouldn't take a massive drop from my PB. Like I knew if I was there or thereabouts, which I'd pretty much been all season, even at Europeans, I swam just off my best time, like unrested. So I knew that it wasn't a massive ask for me. I just needed everything to work out on the day. And unfortunately it didn't. Like Dave said, if all your stars aren't aligned on the day, it is unfortunately a sport where you can add time quite easily, especially on breaststroke with it being such an inefficient stroke. But you know what, like looking back, I did everything I possibly could have in the lead up to that. You know, my training was the best I'd ever done. I was PBing all year round. My body composition was the lowest it's ever been. So yeah, I think my lead up and my taper and everything was perfect, and I still don't quite know what went wrong that week. And to be honest, I don't know if it's worth exploring anymore. I've kind of put it behind me, but yeah, obviously I'm disappointed. I think if I was going to win an Olympic medal, that week was my chance. So I am frustrated that it didn't happen, but equally it's done, and there's nothing I can do, and there's a lot more to life than swimming. And I think I've always said that all along, you know, swimming's a massive part of my life, but it's not the be all and end all. It has shaped who I am, but it doesn't kind of define who I am. So yeah, it was a tough week, and it took me kind of a long time to get over it, but it's sport at the end of the day. It's someone's got to come top 3, and unfortunately it wasn't me. So yeah.
It is can be tough sport, as you say, definitely. Something I wanted to ask you about. Obviously, you went to Rio and had Abby Wood swimming the 200 breaststroke with you. Chloe, you've already mentioned, in Chloe Tutton in 2016, 2012. Obviously, Stacey Tad, and then we had Sophie Taylor in between. You've always had someone else, it seems, domestically, kind of pushing you on, or you know, challenging you. Is that a help?
It is, and it's also a little frustrating. It is good. I think it's always good to kind of have strong talent within Britain. I've been quite grateful that it maybe has always been consistent over the years, but I've kind of always had someone breaking through and pushing me and keeping me on my toes. So yeah, it's been nice to kind of have someone to chase. I've never really felt like I could have just made it easy onto a team, and especially being that person in 2011 where I just burst onto the scene and dropped a lot of time. Like, I was always kind of wary, and Dave would always kind of point people out before trials. He's like, keep an eye on them. And a lot of the time he was right. So yeah, no, I think it's a good thing. And it's nice to kind of see like the depth we've had in British swimming and breaststroke. You know, we've had people winning Commonwealth, European medals in breaststroke for many years now. So yeah, I'm just grateful that I've kind of had that push along the way. And that's probably what's kind of kept me on teams and swimming best times, I guess.
And one other thing I just wanted to ask you briefly. I mean, towards the end of your career, like everybody else, you well, not like everybody else, like many people, you kind of joined up with the ISL and you had the opportunity to swim with the breakers. Now that looked like a team that was having a lot of fun. Is that fair? I mean, take it seriously as well, but you know, looking like it was a lot of fun to be on. Is that fair?
Yeah, definitely. I think we knew we weren't the best team, and it was just really good fun. Like, I think luckily they were placed in the year where we could go away for a big block of time, whether that was, we went to Budapest and were stuck on an island for 6 weeks. And to be honest, like, it was just a great chance to actually get some racing. It was during COVID. We wouldn't have been racing at home. We were able to train with other people from around the world. So I was on a team with Emily Escobedo. So I think, yeah, it was really good fun, but it also gave us just a really good chance to kind of race and compete against people so regularly that we wouldn't have access to normally. So I think, yeah, the idea was really good. We were one of the not so good teams, so there was a little less pressure, and it just kind of made race day a bit more fun. It almost felt like we were back racing in like Arena League or something like that. But equally, like, the race practice was great, and I think that's what helped us going into the long course season, having so much race practice. I think I really benefited from that personally. But yeah, no, I'm really glad I was on that team. It kind of made the balance a lot better for that time of year. I think taking things too seriously from September to December can sometimes drag out the year, and really, I think come trials, you're struggling with motivation if you've kind of sapped it all up in the short course season. So I think, yeah, it was a great balance and really good race exposure too.
Well, I think I've taken enough of your time, but before I let you go, I've just got a few sort of quick questions which to put to you, just to get your immediate responses. So don't think about them. I just want to know what you think on these ones. And I think the first one, I think you may already have told us, but not necessarily in terms of results, but the favourite meet you've ever been to.
Oh, I'm going to say two, which is probably not what you're after, but either Rio 2016, just because it was special having my parents there, or in terms of like team environment and the whole event as a whole, probably Gold Coast Commies. It was just so much fun, swam well, we raced outdoors, Australian crowds are always amazing. And then we had a week afterwards as well to like explore Australia, and I just love it there. So that one's always quite a special one as well to me.
I'll let you know too. I think that's fair. All right, your proudest moment from your career, the thing you look back on most fondly?
Probably that moment walking out to my Olympic final, seeing my family in the crowd, because I think that was the first time I fully kind of embraced the moment and enjoyed swimming, and it's just nice to kind of share that with them because they sacrificed so much for me to be there.
Your favourite training set?
Wasn't really a favourite. I didn't enjoy it at the time, but most beneficial, we used to, it's either the Phelps or the Lochte set, but we'd essentially do like 850s, 650s, 450s, 250s, one on, one off, and like decrease in the rest. And we'd do so many rounds of it. And we'd do it every week to the point where it was nice to kind of see yourself improving week on week. But if you had a bad week, God, it was a horrible set.
What's the thing about swimming that you're missing the most?
I think the people and the team, like I touched on earlier, like it's a really rare situation to be in where everyone around you wants what's best for you. And I got massages every week. I actually really miss that. But yeah, just people like supporting you, wanting you to be the best version of yourself. Like, it's not real life. It's quite like a nice little bubble to be in. So yeah, the staff and the swimmers that I used to work with.
And the flip side of that, what's the thing that you're happiest that you don't have to do anymore? And not that set.
I'm just glad I can go to the pub on a Thursday night and not be told off.
Well, I think that's a good benefit of being a swammer, I suppose.
Definitely.
Well, Molly, thanks ever so much for taking the time to talk to me. I've really enjoyed kind of going back over your highs and lows. Well, more highs than lows, obviously. But say congratulations on a great career, and wish you all the best for the future.
Thank you very much. It's been nice to go over everything and remind myself of kind of what journey I've been on.
Loved hearing from Molly, so a huge thank you to her for sharing her recollections. That's it for this episode. If you want to get in touch, you can find me on Twitter at Pullbuoy or at Pullbuoy UK on Instagram and Facebook, or go to pullbuoy.co.uk/contact if you want to send an email. And don't forget to check out the Pullbuoy store at pullbuoy.co.uk/store. Until next time, thanks for listening.
You've been listening to the Pullbuoy podcast. For more episodes, visit www.pullbuoy.co.uk/podcast.